It's no secret that starting a business is hard. Even if you have an amazing idea, bringing it to life can feel overwhelming. With HubSpot's new entrepreneurship kit, though, you can go from idea to IPO with the help of a company that knows a thing or two about growing better. The all-inclusive kit gives you step-by-step guidance and frameworks to help you crush every stage of starting a business, with tools tailored to help all along the entrepreneurial journey. It's packed with templates for project management, email, and skill development. Wow, that's a lot of templates. There's also a solopreneur guide. It's got freelance pricing worksheets and lots more you can get up and running immediately. And best of all, it's free. With expert guidance and frameworks from HubSpot, starting a business doesn't have to be so hard. So don't wait to start yours. Go to HubSpot.com/ENT to download the guide right now.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Wednesday, August 28th. I'm John Weigell here with Sara Friedman, and this is the Hustle Daily Show. AI can make sounds, it can make images, it can make videos, but one sense that it hasn't mastered yet, thankfully, is smell. But don't worry, someone is working on it, and that someone is a startup called Osmo. Osmo is backed by Google and is developing the smell technology that we never thought we could need to disrupt industries like fragrance and mosquito repellent, to name a few. So how is Osmo developing this technology, and what can we all gain from teaching an iPhone how to smell a hot dog? We'll chat about that in a bit, but first let's give you the hits and headlines today in business and tech. First up, Google's request to build a 779 square foot data center outside of Dublin, Ireland was just rejected over some power supply concerns. Data centers are projected to consume a third of Ireland's energy by 2026, which is up from 18% in 2022. Now, Sara, I know you've written a story on this, but Ireland, small place, a third of energy. It's a lot of energy, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I have some other stats that will even put that into context. According to reporting from The Lever, which, as you said, we've covered before, Google's new AI overview, so that little blurb that pops up at the top when you make a query these days, that uses 10 times the amount of power as a traditional Google search. And adding that snapshot to all Google searches would use the same amount of electricity needed to power all of Ireland. So again, just to put this into context of why they might have denied this request, we're talking about a lot of power here.
Yeah.
Yes, in a small country.
A lot of power in a very, very tiny country. Yeah, I mean, I don't even really like those Gemini queries, honestly. So, I mean, if I could opt out, maybe I would.
Yeah, good for everyone.
Save some energy, you know. Next, Stop & Shop will stop selling cigarettes and tobacco products in the 360 U.S. stores this month, joining chains like Walmart and CVS in phasing out those products, making it even tougher for you to get that cigarette at 2 a.m. Over to Eli Lilly. Eli Lilly released a new form of its Zepbound weight loss injection for half the usual price. The 2.5 and 5 milligram vials will sell directly to patients who don't have insurance on its website for $399 and $549 a month, respectively. From there, we go to Seattle. Seattle Tacoma International Airport is still reeling from a suspected cyber attack on Saturday. The airport, which annually serves over 50 million passengers, has had no internet since Saturday morning. And finally, Lyft will follow in Uber's footsteps and test a rider verification program. The Driver Safety Initiative will ask riders in select cities to submit their legal name to Lyft, which will run through a third-party database and issue a, quote, verification badge. Okay, on to the main story today. Today we're speaking on a new frontier in smell technology, an AI-driven one to be exact. So Sara, can you first tell us a bit about this startup that wants to give computers a sense of smell before we even get into why?
Yes. Well, what's happening is that as we have seen, generative AI can do a lot of things. It can make an image on demand for us. It can spit out text. It can, clone people's voices. So this is just another sense that we are now moving into with smell. And the startup Osmo is co-founded by a former Google researcher. So this is a spin out of Google Research, and it's backed by Google Ventures. And it is essentially trying to allow computers to smell for us. It's much more complicated than it sounds, but that is the premise.
Yeah, it sounds like it's really complicated. Also, until this moment, I never thought that that would be necessary, or honestly, that it would actually be bad in some respects to smell things that I've seen on the internet. But it isn't easy to do this. Again, before we get to why they want to do this, how are they going about this?
Yeah, so essentially they trained an AI model on a data set of 5,000 scent molecules from fragrance catalogs, all of which, have descriptions. They're fruity, they're musky. So the AI was able to start understanding the associations between the way that humans would describe an aroma and the actual molecules that make up those aromas. So it began to learn like what a musky molecule looks like, not just what it smells like, so that it could know how humans would describe those scents. And researchers were able to develop what they're calling an odor map, which is essentially a map of different scents sorted into categories and how those molecules are made up in the way that the computer can read it. So to test that machine learning, they fed the AI 400 scent molecules designed by scientists that don't actually exist in the real world. So these weren't scraped from a fragrance site. They had no words attached to them. And then they asked the AI model to predict what the aromas would smell like. And it was actually quite accurate. They had 15 human volunteers on a panel that were also smelling and categorizing these things. And the researchers found that the AI model was actually able to guess better than the average panelist most of the time.
Wow. Okay. So that's a lot of interesting information, especially given the accuracy of how it already performs and how quickly they've been able to do this. I'm mostly really interested in the odor map and if that is going to make as much as a splash in classrooms as the periodic table and the color wheel in art class. So excited to see printouts of that coming in the near future. But, given all this testing and all this research, why would they want to make computers smell?
Yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I was curious as well, because this is kind of a weird thing happening. First and foremost, just the fragrance market. It's worth $60 billion already today, the global market. And Osmo's tech could help fragrance companies clone scents easily. And this matters because, to make perfumes, we're still relying on natural resources, whether that's plants and trees, or even some of we call them musk fragrances, are actually still derived from animals. And these can be, harmful to the environment, but also from a business standpoint, with extreme weather and the environmental changes happening, they're diminishing resources that are harder to get our hands on. So this would be, very helpful for fragrance brands to be able to synthetically clone these things in a way that is safe for the consumer, safe for the environment, and they won't run out of it. So that's kind of first and foremost, because there is a lot of money in the global fragrance industry.
Definitely. I mean, this even harkens back to something that we spoke about maybe a week or two ago about how the Pentagon is using a beauty brand now to clone like some special chemicals. So this idea of cloning chemicals and cloning resources that would otherwise be stripped from nature is kind of a running theme this year. And I guess this is the latest in that. After talking about the fragrance market, you also talk about ways that it could help health risks.
Yeah, so mosquitoes are a huge problem. They transmit deadly diseases like malaria, and hundreds of thousands of people are dying every year from these things. So that's a big mission of the startup. And they're essentially trying to find something more effective than DEET, which is kind of the going gold standard for insect repellent, but that can cause skin reactions and, again, be harmful, and everything has the host of issues. So they're looking to find something to replace this, or to kind of be ready once insects, if they one day don't care about the DEET anymore, which apparently can happen. They can end up not being bothered by it if they are exposed to it too much. So Osmo is also working to find a more effective mosquito repellent. And they already identified 10 scents in the lab that seem to work as well, if not better, than DEET. And so that's really exciting. it's doing some good for the world. And the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation actually already invested $8.5 million in the company for this specific mission, just because it's such a big deal.
Wow. Yeah, so it seems like some actual world-changing ideas have come out of this seemingly ineffective action. So I really like that. And also, you've noted that it is aimed to detect diseases as well.
Yeah, that's, according to the founders, the very far off long-term goal, because out of everything, that's the most difficult and complex. And, there have been kind of attempts made at this before and talk of this idea of if disease has smell in the human body. And I feel like most of us have heard stories of people who say they can smell cancer or animals. And so this would be kind of the final frontier for that. Obviously, we're a ways off, but that would be really incredible if we could start diagnosing diseases maybe before they become harmful just from a computer smelling them.
Wow. Yeah. And you mentioned this as well, but, smell is nice. And I would like to smell the great fragrances from the foods on my Instagram feed. But I think taste would be a one-up. So I'm still waiting for that category as well.
Yeah, me too. I think whenever we get word of that startup, I'll definitely be covering it, hopefully trialing it. But that's the dream, really.
Yeah, that's what we're working towards all this time.
Yep.
All right, and that's going to do it for us today. Thanks for tuning into the Hustle Daily Show. We're a proud part of the HubSpot Podcast Network. Our editor today is Robert Hartwig, and our executive producer is Darren Clark. We've got a lot more tech and business coverage in our newsletter. If you're not subscribed, go get yourself signed up at thehustle.co/email and throw us a follow on Instagram. We'll see you tomorrow.
Hey everybody, I've been listening to this awesome podcast lately called Entrepreneurs on Fire. It's hosted by John Lee Dumas, and it's available right now on the HubSpot Podcast Network. Entrepreneurs on Fire stokes inspiration and shares strategies to fire up your entrepreneurial journey and create the life that you've always dreamed of. It offers lots of energy, value, consistency, and it's for anybody who wants to learn more about entrepreneurship. It's super fast-paced and packed with valuable stories about entrepreneurs, their aha moments, their failures, and everything to what's working for them today. Recently, he had on this guest, Ashley Stahl, who talked all about her job at the Pentagon and how she evolved into becoming a top 100 TEDx speaker. She talks about evolving your brand from the ground up, leaning into the skills that you already have to build your brand, and also creating virality. It's a great listen. You should check it out. And you can listen to Entrepreneurs on Fire wherever you get your podcasts.